everyone, and welcome back, or welcome to my channel. If you are new, your subscription is greatly appreciated and it's lovely to meet you. I'm Andrea M. So first off, I want to apologise for no video last week, but I'm back at work again now. And I'm still at work at House Van Chaos, and we are at a beautiful new gallery, still in South Grafton, but out from under the shadow of the extremely haunted Emporium building. And to be honest, while I do adore that building, I really adore the old girl, she is the lady of the South, it could get creepy in that old building if you were there on your own. And some days when I was there by myself of a weekend, it would even be too creepy for me. So we had a really busy week or so of moving all of my stock back to the new shop and finalising my paintings for my upcoming exhibition that we're holding soon and preparing for our grand opening on July 9. But I will tell you more about that as we get closer to that date. All I can say is it's going to be epic, and I love our new gallery so much. So in between moving and painting to unwind, I found a treasure trove of scary camping videos here on YouTube that were eerie and some downright terrifying, to say the least. So I thought for something a little different for today's video, we could lace up our hiking boots and explore 3 of the world's most haunted and scariest places to camp, and just explore some of the stories that go with these places. So, without further ado, grab a snack, grab a drink. I've got a steamy cup of chai latte here because it is freezing here in Australia right now. And I know I always kind of make a big deal over this every winter, but you have to think, we have hot weather pretty much 6 to 8 months of the year. So when winter comes and it starts snowing everywhere, like it is at the moment, it's not snowing here. But they have said it could be a slight possibility. That'd be really cool because I've never seen snow and I'd love to. But just up the road from us at Glen Innes, it's been snowing. It's been snowing at Ben Lomond. It's been snowing at Gyra, all the places to the south of us where we get all our lovely wind from. But with winter, it brings an end to humidity, heat, and just feeling pretty blah most of the year. It's very, very hot here. So when it gets cold, we don't expect it. Like, just last week it was still kind of warmish, and it's just been since the weekend that we're getting some really cold temperatures. So as you can see, I've got my usual de rigueur for winter, my beanie, my scarf, 3 layers, and a steamy hot cup of something. And I've got it in my cute little mushroom cup. If you're in Australia, you can get these from the reject shop for $5. I got this one as a present to myself for the opening of our new shop, and I got one for my boss Pam as well, and she loved hers too. And I'm having a lovely chai latte to try and keep me warm today. So let's gather round the fireside for some scary stories of 3 very scary places to camp across the globe. So without further ado, let's just jump in. And this third one is a banger. I've never heard of this place before, which surprises me considering its reputation. But would you camp here? So, counting down from number 3, kicking off our scary camping trip today is the Brayley Pond Campground. So the Brayley Pond Campground is popular with hikers, campers and fishermen, and it has a pond and a nearby creek. So Brayley Pond Campground is situated in the George Washington and Jefferson National Forest near West Augusta, Virginia, USA. And while it seems like a tranquil forest environment, and that's during the day, it's tranquil, it's an absolutely beautiful place. I've got some photos here. That all changes by accounts of people who have been there camping or walking after the sun sets. People have reported several strange things after the sun sets at Brayley Pond Campground. So they have reported feeling nauseous when in the area, seeing floating orbs of light, and hearing horses galloping down the road. The most well-known tale is about the ghost that is said to haunt Brayley Pond. So, campers claim to have heard loud laughter that can't be accounted for, and a ghostly figure floating over the creek. So, because of all these rumours of strange happenings and apparition sightings, Brayley Pond has become a destination for amateur and professional ghost hunters from across the world. However, most investigations have turned up nothing, and as a paranormal investigator myself, you do find that, like, when I'm investigating, I try to go in with no expectations of a place whatsoever. Because if you go there and you're expecting ghosts and things to be jumping out and Bigfoot to wave to you, you're going to come back with nothing. But if you go in there feeling a little bit neutral, I always find you'll pick up at least one or two little things, at least. So, most paranormal investigators turned up nothing at Brayley Pond. That was until a paranormal researcher and an empath named Shay Willis and her team decided to investigate. So there was a lady named Cara P, who was a dirt camper, and she calls it beautiful, and she wrote a review about Brayley Pond, and in her words she said, "The pond has a great little trail you can walk around, and at night the stars are gorgeous." But another camper named Johnny D also noted, "This place also makes it seem as if you are not totally alone." So the tranquil surroundings, paired with local lore and details of a grisly murder supposedly committed at Brayley Pond, was enough to attract the attention of Shay Willis and her team. Okay, so as I was researching Brayley Pond, it said that it was a reported rumour about what I'm going to tell you next, but I did go and look this up, and apparently this is an actual unaliving of a local at Brayley Pond that did actually happen, and he was murdered by a gang. He was stabbed 13 times, and then his body was dumped into the water at Brayley Pond, and it did actually happen. So what we're talking about here is May 22nd, 2003, a 19-year-old named Christopher S. Kennedy was actually murdered at Brayley Pond by the local gang members. Two of the members lured Kennedy to the site. They stabbed him 13 times in the chest and back, and then dumped his body in the water. And that was according to a court document. Kennedy's body was discovered by police partially submerged in the pond. The Augusta County Sheriff at the time stated, "There was a lot of violence at the crime scene." So Shay actually had a friend who asked her if she knew about what happened at Brayley Pond, and the friend has asked to remain anonymous. So she's asked Shay Willis if she'd heard about the murder at Brayley Pond and its reputation as one of Virginia's most haunted places. Shay was intrigued by this. So Shay said she didn't want any more details. As someone who practices the art of reading the energies of both the living and the dead, she needed to find these things out for herself. So if you go in there armed and you already know what's going to happen, it's really hard to validate it later. So she made the right decision to not ask any more questions, and she just go in with an open mind and see what she might pick up on. So upon investigating the campground and surrounds, Shay would go on to recount the following. And this is in Shay's words. So the group arrived at around 4:30 in the afternoon and made their way towards a bridge that led to a dam at Brayley Park. She recalls experiencing a very strong sense of what happened there. So Shay, while she's doing her work, takes a lot of notes, and upon arriving at one of the most haunted places in Virginia, she would recall it as it was so heavy as to be almost palatable. And I knew immediately that this feeling was not my own. Shay would also say, I was feeling something that belonged to someone else. So whether that was the young guy that was killed at the pond or somebody else, she was picking up on feelings that she felt didn't belong to her. And that's a really common thing if you are an empath or a sensitive of some kind. If there's something around you, usually you will pick up on it. By the time the group actually arrived to the dam, two of them were becoming physically sick, and they began to panic as they went further around the side of the dam. So they sat down at the edge of the woods to calm down, And by that time, Shay was beginning to feel nauseous and sick herself. And I know what that's like. I've been in situations, and it happened at the Emporium a lot, that I would just get feeling heavy and very sick, and to the point you feel like you're going to throw up. It's a very strange sensation unless you've ever felt it. So Shay would also say that she'd never been frightened of the paranormal. She was kind of used to it. Like, we all get used to it, and you think you're not frightened of it, but some days you just meet your match. And obviously for Shay, it was the day that she went to Brayley Pond. So she'd go on to say, I was surprised by my reaction to it. It was definitely the strongest reaction I'd ever had. She also said that she'd gone to thousands of investigations in some very strange places. I've been into places that 6 foot, 250 pound men wouldn't step foot on. And the group did decide that it was time to leave because everybody was feeling so bad. But Shay and a friend of hers named Mr. Arnold would go back later that night. So around 11:30 p.m. they returned. And Shay would also go on to say that she felt as though something was waiting for her. As they crossed the bridge from earlier, they were overwhelmed with the now familiar feeling of fear and dread. So she said she sensed another presence behind the original one that she'd felt earlier. This one didn't feel like the others. She'd go on to say, she said, in fact, it didn't even feel human. And you kind of know when something has never been human before. There's no, like, off a lot of spirits or whatever you find out there, a lot of people say, like, you can feel that they were human or a pet or whatever before they died. And if it's something that's never been human, you can feel that too. So as Arnold and Shay reached the top of the dam, they heard something moving in the water. Arnold grabbed Willis by the arm and spun her around to see an unbelievable sight. In the very top of a very tall pine tree was a green, glowing, orb-shaped object. Shay would say it wasn't like a pinpoint of light that you had to blink hard to see. She said it was absolutely huge. So I'm wondering if that could be something like we have here, like the Min lights, if it was something trying to manifest. We just don't know. She would go to write in her journal of her experience of this orb that it was roughly 30 or 40 feet in the air, looking as though it were nestled in the branches of one of the big pines that flanked the opening to the path. It was brightly glowing, fluorescent green. Shay fumbled for her camera to capture the sight on film. The light chose that moment to disappear in a blink, as she put it. It was then Arnold and Willis heard something splashing violently in the pond, and there was no mistaking it. She would say it sounded like there was a person in the water flailing and kicking. Could that have been the spirit of the young man who lost his life in the pond? It was loud enough to have been the size of a full-grown human. After this, Arnold and Willis got the sense that something was rushing at them, prompting them to take off as fast as they could down the stairs and back to the truck. With Arnold in the lead, Willis witnessed Arnold suddenly fall into the water, but as she explained, he didn't just fall. She would say, I don't know how to explain it, except for he literally flew upwards and to the left as if something had hit him right in the middle of his back, like using his forward momentum, and he went off the side of the bridge and into the water, which doesn't sound to me like it would be a very friendly place to be. And it makes me wonder, do people actually go swimming in Brayley Pond at all? I would think after what happened there, I wouldn't want to set foot in that water. What a lot of people may or may not know is that water is a terrific conduit for psychic energy. It seems to channel and be able to keep it. So that's water you really wouldn't want to go for a swim in. So Shay actually stopped at the water's edge, and she was kneeling down screaming for her friend, who assured that he was okay, but he begged her to keep going and to keep running. As she stood up, she then felt something land on her back. And Shay's given numerous interviews about what she felt land on her back that night. So she said that the way it moved along her back, it was like a 2-foot long inchworm, and it was like, pardon the terminology here, but she said it was like humping its way from arm to arm and across the back of her head. So if you can imagine, it was probably like doing like this kind of an action. In her journal, Shay described it as psychic jelly. She wrote, "It felt as though it had some sort of tentacles." Shay would also go on to say she understands how her recounting of the story would sound to anybody who wasn't there. There's people that are going to take one look at what I've said and they're going to think I'm either trying to sell something or I'm out of my mind. But there are witnesses to everything that happened that night. As she ran to the truck to meet Arnold, Willis was screaming, "There's something on me, there's something on me." And she made it to the truck. Arnold tried to find out what was on her but couldn't see anything. They could not see anything on her, and she's flailing around trying to get this thing off her back, and there was nothing there. They couldn't see a dang thing. So she's climbing inside the truck and she's crying, and her friend Arnold is trying to calm her down, insisting that she was simply upset by what they had experienced earlier. But she would insist, "It's crawling all over me." I can't even imagine, because I'm one of these people, I love spiders and bugs and butterflies, like something concrete like that. The creepy crawlies don't bother me at all in the slightest. But some big creepy crawly thing that I can't see, or something that, they come scuttling out of the dark on those horror movies, I hate those. I can't stand anything like that. So I can really relate to how she would be absolutely out of her mind with fear. So after this, Shay and the team did make it safely out of the woods around Brayley Pond that night. However, Shay would also describe the after effects of what happened at Brayley Pond, being plagued by nightmares and disturbing dreams for weeks after. And just that feeling, she would get that feeling that something was still crawling around on her back. But she wasn't deterred. She and Arnold made additional trips to Brayley Pond in November of the same year, trying to make sense of what happened. And I believe this was around 2003, 2004, if I didn't mention it before. So they said they witnessed beavers acting strangely in the water, and their video camera's battery drained suddenly on one occasion. And if you've ever been on a paranormal investigation and you're trying to film, that's a very common thing. They will drain the batteries out of anything because they love energy and they love electronics. Willis even went back by herself, and that's a really brave thing to do. I would not have gone back by myself. But she would say she felt like she was pulled to go. She got out of the car and circled the parking lot as if in a trance, watching the bridge and the dam. The same terrible feeling she felt during her initial trip was back. Later, on this solo trip, she found herself in the park's bathroom, bent over and staring down into the toilet. She remembers nothing between the time she was in the parking lot and then realised that she was in the bathroom. So could her little wormy friend have taken over control of the ship for a while? Who knows? A few weeks after this, Willis and her husband were in bed watching TV one night when they heard their 8-year-old son screaming wildly from the living room. When they reached him, he was pointing to a corner of the living room. Willis and her husband asked him what was going on, and their son would say he saw a guy standing there with multiple holes in his chest, wet and covered in blood. Trying to comfort her son, Shay suggested to him that it might have just been a shadow. Maybe he was having a nightmare he woke up from. Eventually, Willis began to feel like herself again. After many months, the thing on her back was finally gone. As she had a more recent visit to the pond back in 2007, that was her most recent visit that I could find. She went back and it was like nothing ever happened. Whatever was at Brayley Pond 4 years prior had apparently vanished. Or has it? Maybe it's waiting for some new campers to venture bravely into this territory as we speak. So, if you're ever in the vicinity of the Brayley Pond campground, you might want to keep in mind that something might be waiting for you. And if any of you guys have ever camped at Brayley Pond, or you live near there, or you know of the stories, or if you've had an experience at Brayley Pond, I would love to hear about it in the comments section below. Let me know if you've had any weird experiences at Brayley Pond. For me, if I ever get to the States, which I would love to because I've got some terrific friends over there, I think I'd like to actually visit Brayley Pond, but during the day, and I'm not going anywhere near that bridge. Oh, maybe from a distance to get a photo. That would be cool, but yeah, I don't think I'm going to be camping there. No. So, for number 2 on our scary campground stories today, we are going to Pendle Hill, Lancashire, UK. Pendle Hill, Lancashire, UK is said by Most Haunted presenter Yvette Fielding to be the site of the scariest episode she ever made. Now, this could be due to the fact that Pendle Hill is connected with some of the most famous witch trials in English history. And I think I remember that episode when they actually went to Pendle Hill, because I remember her talking about the Pendle Hill witches, and Derek Okora, I believe, was still alive in that episode. Pretty sure he was in that one, and he was saying that he was talking to a witch of Pendle Hill. So, and it did seem like a pretty scary place. So if you can find that episode, it's a good watch. You can find Most Haunted here on YouTube. If I can find their channel, I will link it below. If you've never watched Most Haunted before, whether you believe or you don't, it's an entertaining show anyway. It's a lot of fun, especially when they get scared and then they laugh it off. And they do have a lot of episodes with the dearly departed Derek Okora in them. And he was one of the world's most famous psychic mediums of the day when they were making Most Haunted. So if you get to watch it, it's fun. I mean, it doesn't matter if you believe in ghosts and things or not. It's just a good watch if you like something scary. So as the story of the famous witch trials of Pendle Hill go, a dozen people from around the hill were accused of witchcraft and murder in 1612 after mysterious deaths in the area. 10 were convicted and hanged at Lancaster Castle. 1 died in jail and 1 was found not guilty. The ghosts of the 10 reportedly haunt Newchurch Village at the foot of Pendle Hill, home of one of the accused families. And the hill's summit is a pool for ghostbusters and haunt hunters on Halloween. Around the hill, the Pendle Witches Trail goes through Newchurch as well as the neighbouring village of Roughlee, the hamlet of Barley and St Mary's Churchyard, where the accused was supposedly buried. People walking the grounds at Pendle Hill have reported seeing strange figures approaching from time to time that could only be described, in their opinion, as witches. Katie Berry and her brother Michael, visiting for the day several years ago, had one such eerie encounter. And yes, I said Katie Berry, not Katy Perry. Just in case you guys are wondering, it's not Space Cadet, it's Katie Berry. So Katie said they set off at 11 a.m. and reached the top around 3 hours later. It was as they reached the top of Pendle Hill they saw a woman hurrying towards them. Katie would say she was walking at a brisk pace and had her head down, and there was an eerie and strange aura about this lady. So she said, we weren't scared or anything as she was approaching us, but we did realise that she did not once lift her head. But as she got closer and closer, it got a little stranger. She still didn't lift her head at all. Made Katie wonder who walks like that. Katie would say her and her brother both were attempted to communicate with the woman. And she said we did say hello to her and tried to say something, but she didn't say anything and walked straight past as if they weren't even there. Who does that? And Katie would go on to say, she exclaimed, oh my God. And then they saw other people around as we were climbing up, but nobody was there at the top. She certainly looked like a witch, and we have shown it to everyone. And what they mean by that is this photo that they took of this figure, this woman who was coming towards them. And that she has a point there, like, even if you're somebody who kind of likes to look at their shoes or they look down, you know, looking for things on the ground, like flowers or whatever, when they walk, you are going to look up occasionally to make sure you're not going to run into somebody. You're going to look for approaching traffic or something. This woman just barged right through where Katie and her brother were standing. And this is the photo of that figure. And it's a little bit, I'm going to just play devil's advocate here. It's a little hard to say if it is in fact anything paranormal or not. It could just be somebody in costume. Maybe there are people that dress up as the Pendle Hill Witches and act accordingly to give a little more ambiance to the place. But Katie did say that they saw other figures that were up the top of the hill behind this woman. And when they got up there was nobody up there. And it's the kind of place that, you know, they wouldn't have been able to leave that quickly without passing Katie and her brother or her seeing them coming back down. So it is a little bit strange. But as for the photo, it is eerie. I will say that it does have an eerie feeling to it. But it is a little bit hard to tell if it is actually something otherworldly or if it's just a person. It could just be somebody who's mentally ill and fancies themselves a witch. You know, stranger things have happened. But it's something you might just have to decide on for yourself. What do you think this is a picture of? Do you think it's a witch? Or do you think it's just somebody dressed up as one? What do you guys think? Let me know. Lady would say that it was their first time that they had ever travelled to Pendle Hill. And she said they would be coming back again despite seeing this scary apparition. Katie would also say, "We will be going back, but there is no way I would go there alone." Local people fear visiting the hill at night due to the strange goings-on and the sighting of shadowy figures darting around the hill in the evening. In addition to the stories of the witches, there are believed to be several other spirits that haunt this barren hillside. Maybe that was what Katie saw. Investigators have often reported contacting children and the ghosts of those who have sadly taken their own lives in the area. While camping on private land is prohibited in the UK, there are several designated camping sites around Pendle Hill for those brave enough to try and set up camp there. And I'm sure they would have a lot of scary stories to tell. So if anybody's had a camp near Pendle Hill, let me know that too. Let me know if you had any visits from a witch during the night or anything weird walking around your tent. And that brings us to our last story on today's list. Number 1, Lake Morena County Park. Lake Morena County Park, located in the remote San Diego County, California, is a well-known and frequently cited spot for reported hauntings. Numerous accounts and stories describe unexplained phenomena, particularly around the campgrounds and lake, suggesting it is a popular attraction and haunt for ghost hunters, especially around, you guessed it, Halloween. And here's what makes it so haunted. It has a very, very tragic history. The Morena Reservoir, which Lake Morena is named after, flooded in 1916, resulting in over 50 fatalities. The historical event and the loss of life contributed to the area's reputation as a place of eerie happenings, unexplained sightings, and other phenomena. Visitors have reported seeing a variety of paranormal activity, including a woman in a white dress. The spectre of a young woman in a long white dress is a recurring theme at Lake Morena. Heavy footsteps. People hear the sound of heavy footsteps walking along the lake shore and even through the campgrounds at night. Eerie levitating bodies. There are tales of disembodied figures seemingly floating on the water or in the air surrounding the area. There is also an old man that people have reported seeing, and they see him in the distance, seemingly staring intently at them. So the park staff at Lake Morena have also reported quite a bit of bizarre and unexplained occurrences. Articles and stories in the local newspapers like the San Diego Union have documented the paranormal activity and helped solidify Lake Morena's reputation as a most haunted location. So Lake Morena County Park has been featured in lists and articles that rank campgrounds among the most haunted in the United States. Over the years, however, it has developed quite a reputation for alleged paranormal activity. Stories of ghost sightings, mysterious sounds, and unexplained occurrences have circulated for decades. The most common tale involves the Lady of the Lake, who we spoke about briefly earlier, a figure in white that some claim to have seen walking near the shoreline at dusk. Others report hearing footsteps around the campsites late at night, sudden drops in temperature, and faint voices near an old stone structure along one of the park's trails. So Lake Morena itself is a man-made reservoir completed in 1912 to serve San Diego's growing water needs. Sitting at over 3,000 feet in elevation, it's one of the highest reservoirs in the country and part of the city's municipal water system. The surrounding area has a rich history including native Kumeyaay presence, early ranching settlements, and nearby military activity in Campo during World War II. So, is it a hoax or is it the real deal? Despite the folklore, long-time locals say that they haven't experienced anything out of the ordinary. And that is usually how it goes. The locals don't see anything, the people who come in do, and then nobody believes them. I've heard that people have seen sightings and things and spirits, said Lily Grill, a kitchen manager and head cook at the Oak Shores Malt Shop. And if you want to go and visit her there, if that shop is still there, it's at 2425 Lake Morena Drive, and it's only a short drive from the lake. A lady was doing a YouTube video once, but I never saw anything myself, and at that point she'd been there for 12 years. Another man named Ronnie, owner of the nearby Lake Morena County Market, echoed that sentiment. Nope, never even heard that, and I've been here for 23 years. Some attribute the eerie experiences to wildlife, as the area is home to deer, coyotes, bobcats and owls, animals that could account for strange sounds or even fleeting shadows. Still, visitors often find the lake's quiet, sometimes foggy atmosphere a little unsettling. The origin of the abandoned stone structure near one trail remains unclear, but hikers have reported hearing whispers or feeling a strange heaviness in the air near it. April Bell, a lifelong Campo resident who was shopping at the Campo Green store in Delhi, said she's familiar with the stories but hasn't encountered anything herself. She'll go on to say that we camp near the lake all the time and have never seen or heard a thing. I tend to be more skeptical of that kind of stuff, but some people do believe things like that and find the paranormal very interesting. She'd also go on to tell this story that back in the 1800s, what the heck is that? It looks like the weird flying things are back in my room. Now, it's snowing about an hour up the road from me at Glen Innes. It is cold, freezing cold. It's a wonder I'm not breathing vapour inside. Because, like I said before, it is hot here all the time. We don't have central heating. We don't have anything like that. I have a questionable air conditioner, which I don't think's working because I'm still freezing. And I've just had something go across my field of vision just there and try to land on my face. And I'm flippy-flopping it away like Peter Rabbit. I don't know what the hell it was. It's gone now, but like when I first started doing the videos and I was in my room, and I'm in my room today because it's too cold in the shed, in the podcast studio. So I'm probably going to be in my room all winter because it's either too wet or it's too cold over there. Who knew? It's going to be a great location for summer videos. So that's nice. But I had so many of you all saying, I saw something go across your camera lens or something flew over your head. Now, believe it in it or not, I'm just going to get off track here in a minute. I do have a fairy infestation. It's cold. And don't anybody think the fairies aren't going to come inside because they're interdimensional beings and they can handle the cold. No, those little fuckers, they naked. They naked. And they fly around. Well, they've got clothes, but they're, for all intents and purposes, they might as well be naked. They're coming inside because it's cold. I'm pretty sure that's what just flew across in front of me. Anyway, I digress. Let's just get back to the video before somebody calls the white coats on me. Anyway, so the story goes, so I was so rudely interrupted by that fairy. Back in the 1800s, there was a mine just behind the Lake Morena Dam. There was so much poisonous gas that it had killed over 40 plus children, and it is said that these souls still walk the lake, and that haunted is an understatement. And that was a local named Jodie Richter. Another, Sam Shoemaker, said, "Not that I remember, however, we vacated the area around 1984 or so. I remember in the summer months, the first Saturday, people from all over the hills came to get together and have a grand old time." So he's not really remembering anything paranormal either. And one last local, Katrina Spurs, who has lived in Campo for 17 years and still works at the general store, recalled an eerie experience from a couple of years ago. She said she and her friends had brought along a spirit box one night while exploring. We did hear some weird sounds like a woo, but no one knows what it was. It could have been anything. Animals and owl, but she says she doesn't think it was. I do think you can differentiate between the sounds. We went at night and it was sort of spooky. We had never been there and we had heard that there were weird things. While she and her friends haven't actively searched for ghosts, they do camp at the lake quite regularly. And she would go on to say that she has heard that Goat Island, the small separate island in the middle of the lake, is also said to be the most haunted. And she said, "We've all heard the story since Lake Morena was farmland before it became a dam, and that bodies were dumped there, maybe, or the one about the lady at the lake." The rangers at the station and media for County of San Diego Parks and Recreation, Lake Morena County Park, declined to comment on the rumoured hauntings. This makes me wonder, have they seen something? Or have they seen nothing? That's interesting. So after all these years, whether the stories come from imagination or wildlife encounters or something truly unexpected, all the stories surrounding Lake Morena continue to add a much beloved layer of mystery to this remote corner of San Diego County. And Lake Moreno brings us to the end of our scary camping trip today. So like I asked before, have any of you ever experienced something spooky while camping? Let me know in the comments. I would love to read about it. So I don't go camping much myself. While I do like a good hike and I like to be out in nature, I'm more of an indoor girl. Because I'd rather just, be inside reading or painting or, researching or whatever. I'm a bit of a sook. I don't like mosquitoes. I don't like it when it's too hot. Don't mind it when it's too cold. It's too cold now. And though I'm rugged up and I'm telling you how cold it is, I don't mind it. So I don't go camping very much. I do like to camp when I can get to it though, but I like to go with a huge group of friends so there's lots of us to watch each other's back. And I have to say, the only time I went camping and anything even remotely creepy happened was when our school took us. And they took us camping at a place called Station Creek Beach. And the scariest thing that happened to me on that trip was a rather large and jovial goanna, and this is what our goannas look like. And people are actually scared of them, but I've only had positive experiences with goannas. I used to have 2 pet ones here. And they used to like eating like meat scraps and things like that if they could find them. They're actually like really friendly little guys. There are rumours that if they're cornered, they will climb you like a tree, but these guys, we've seen them around since they were little fellas, so they were okay with us. But this was the first time I'd ever seen a goanna up close, and it was a big fella, it was a big fella. And the school took us camping, and they took us down to the beach. So we were at the beach walking and swimming and stuff, and everybody was coming back, and we were all starving hungry because, we'd been running about and body surfing and all that good stuff. And we got back to our tent, and we found the gentleman, the goanna, exiting our tent, and it looked like he'd eaten all of our Vegemite sandwiches that we brought along to lunch, and we caught him skedaddling out the door as we returned from the beach. So that was the scariest thing that's ever happened to me camping, and that was probably enough for me. Not real good when you come back from the beach and you're mad hungry and you've old matey's come in and he's stolen your sandwiches. Because they will eat anything. They will eat anything. I used to have to, like, shoo the guys that were here, the two little guys here that we had when we first moved in. I used to have to shoo them away from my bin a lot of the time. So I didn't want them eating anything they shouldn't have. But yeah, they'll eat anything. Anything at all, including Vegemite. How very Australian, though. But I do have to say, today's stories are not inspiring me to go camping anytime soon. And as I mentioned before, it's freezing, it's snowing everywhere. And actually, it'd probably be quite cozy to camp when it's like this, but not for me. I like my shower, I like my bed, I like my TV, and I like curling up with Mr. Louie. So it's all the better now to grab a hot chocolate and a snack and kick back with some YouTube and just relax and enjoy the cool weather. I've heard overseas that it's getting quite hot, so best wishes to everybody overseas in the Northern Hemisphere. I hope you don't get too bad of a summer. But I'm going to enjoy this lovely winter weather that we're having. So go on, have a lovely day today. Have a happy and safe week, my lovelies. And I will see you in my next video. And videos probably are going to be a little bit sporadic again for a while we're just, getting back into the swing of work and getting everything ready for our grand opening, which I will tell you about the closer we get to it. I don't want to spill all the beans just yet. So, but it's going to be epic and it's going to be so much fun. So I will be keeping you guys up to date with that as well. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching and keeping me company today. I hope you learned something today, or at least had a little bit of fun talking about scary places to camp. I just thought it'd be something different. And I will see you all again next time. Bye for now.